The following video you are about to watch contains adult language. Probably didn't need to say that, but I will, because just in case someone is bothered by that. Tacos. Hey, hi-ho, and howdy, everybody. My name is Shannon L. Shook, and today I'm thinking about talking about something just a little bit extra. Well, hey, hi-ho, and howdy, boys and girls. My name be Shannon L. Shook. Shook? Shook? Oh, God. Oh, no. Fucked up my intro. Knew it was gonna happen, too. It's bad. Anyway, hey, hi-ho, and howdy, everybody. My name is Shannon L. Shook, and welcome to yet again another episode. Episode 2, in fact, of Nomad of Nowhere. We're doing the review cap. It's great. It's golden. It's episode 2 of season 1. Damn it. Bliss Hill. And I'm on board with this series so far. I really am. This is one of those things because, again, you didn't know whether or not you were 100% going to be on board. At least I didn't. And after seeing this episode, the previous episode, and seeing the next episode, I'm 100% on board. I'm so happy with this series so far. It's a real enjoyable time, and I'm definitely looking forward to see more of it. And I want to just say a quick thank you to everyone who checked out the previous video I made on it. I'm glad some people liked it. I hope you guys continue to like it in the future, because I like making this. Anyway. This episode is primarily broken up into 2 main parts, one following the Nomad and one following Toth and Scout. We're going to start out, we're just might as well hit them in order since they don't really intersect, they're just there and there. So starting off the episode, we get introduced to Toth and Scout coming in back from their failure at attempting to catch the Nomad, making their way to the Oasis. It's a place that I believe got mentioned in the last episode. It's Don Paragon's land. Speaking of which, Don Paragon, holy shit, not at all what I thought he was going to be like, but I approve. We'll get to him in a second. Anyway, they're making their way to the Oasis, and once you get there, it's he describes it as a utopia, and it really is. It's this little just closed-off fortress utopia that surrounds the only water source for miles and miles and miles. And, of course, the Don, being the kind of person he is, he takes full advantage of that. I'm sorry if I cough too much into it. My voice has been bugging me today. Hence why I shouldn't have tried doing that stupid voice at the very beginning. Anyway, they're making their way there, and people are just lined up outside the Oasis, paying absurd amounts of money just to get water, so obviously they don't die. It's here that they make their way inside. An old man's even trying to steal just a little bit of water on the side and ends up getting taken out, just getting drips of water, so obviously that is incredibly important. I believe at the end of the episode, it also does show that, honestly, effectively, water is the primary currency from where they are in nowhere, which kind of makes sense. If it is this desert where there is no water, water is going to be an incredibly important thing to have access to. So it effectively is money, except for the Don, who's getting all of the gold in exchange for the water. So anyway, they make their way in and end up going to meet the Don. Let's talk about my mans. Number 1, I might just say what everyone else has said. Motherfucker's a schnee. He totally is. He's a skinny little sassy flamboyant dick who he's Whitley.
I'll have you know I didn't stop growing while you were away at Beacon.
Is what he is. He's fucking Whitley from goddamn Ruby. Just gayer. And I it's great. I like it. I like those kind of characters, those pompous, sassy douchebags. I like it. Kind of the reason I like Red too, because he's a pompous, sassy douchebag. Yeah, so they end up making their way in there, and they go to tell Don Paragon basically, hey, we found the Nomad. He's all like, well, obviously, come to tell me how you fucking failed and how you did this again and again and again. And they go in there and be like, hey, actually, we found the Nomad. Didn't fucking get him, but we found him. And it's here that after relaying that, he ends up starts praising them and doing all this, and ends up kind of revealing why it is that he wants the Nomad, at least on a surface level. As he described it, to be first. He wants to have access to this little commodity. He describes the Nomad as his meal ticket. As far as he's concerned, the Nomad is this little this commodity which can allow him to get more in life, presumably from someone like El Rey, who he mentions later on as being obviously the king in this place. Pretty sure El Rey means the king. Point is, El Rey. He says that he wants it, so if he has it, then presumably he can do whatever he wants to kind of use him as a bargaining chip to potentially get as much more as he possibly could ever want. Considering that's his whole thing with water, it would make sense that he'd want to do that with something as valuable as the only magic user who's still out there these days. It's in here, too, that Red Manuel bees him and shows up and basically says, well, hey, because he desperately wants to just suck the guy's dick. I don't know what his fascination is with being the Don's right-hand cowboy, boy, person, man, baby, child, but he does. He wants that, which I guess I can kind of understand. Ally yourself with the rich and powerful, and you might not be rich and powerful, but be better off at least. He basically describes to the Don that, well, if it matters that much to you, then why don't you divide and conquer? You set up, you increase the bounty, you set up as much as you possibly can, get everyone that you possibly can, bounty hunter wise, hunting down the Nomad so that you can make sure that you are the one that gets him. It's at this point, I mean, it's obvious that money, while it's important, isn't something that he's like missing out on. He could easily he could very easily just pay someone off to get the hunting of the Nomad done. Increase the bounty, do whatever you have to do to just make sure you're the one that ends up with the Nomad. And which, I mean, the Don agrees to do that. He's like, that's a great idea. It's lovely. It's fantastic. It's a terrible impression. It's so off. It's not even funny. Anyway, point is, he sets up this thing and he says, basically just plaster the wanted posters everywhere. He does mention, like he mentioned El Rey, he does also mention a place called the Iron Border. Like to know more about that. If people be name-dropping locations and people, they're probably going to be important. The question, I guess, supposedly would be here is, how much of a main antagonist character is the Don going to be in comparison to, say, someone like El Rey? Is the Don just, say, Cinder to Homeboy's Salem? Or is El Rey still this big guy in the background that might be needing to worry about, but the Don is this character who's going to be primarily the main antagonist for the show, which I guess, again, you could kind of make the same parallels to Cinder. And anyway, it's just kind of thoughts I had on the subject. Anyway, and that pretty much wraps up that whole section. Then we move on to where the Nomad is. And he's just strolling off throughout the desert. Not a care in the world. My man is just like, I can't see him smiling, but I bet you he'd be smiling under that little he or she or it. I still don't know what the fuck you are, my boy. My girl. My thing. Anyway, he's strolling up and comes across a sign leading to this town called Bliss Hill. It's this old, run-down, destroyed ghost town with a few people in it, but obviously it's in the desert. There ain't no water, there ain't no nothing. The biggest problem with it is that the mill is run down and it's destroyed. We'll get to that in a second. Anyway, he makes his way into the town, ends up running into a few people here, ends up getting introduced to what I can only describe as Boomstick from fucking Death Battle's really old grandpa, as well as just a few other little characters in there. Ends up getting kind of chased away and running into Barty, this little kid who is the son of the sheriff of Bliss Hill, who's digging around in garbage and ends up introducing himself to the Nomad, quickly starts running down, giving the old, like, let me know about you, what can you do, can you be of use to us, can you fix our problem? And ends up running through a couple things. The biggest one out of them all, I would say, is we learn through his discussion that the Nomad has never really killed anyone, or at least he's never done it on purpose. You could have questions raised about that by the end of the episode. Anyway, so they have this discussion. Barty learns that he's a mute, he does all this, and ends up showing off his magical powers to bring to life just some trash, which immediately gets murdered, and that's kind of dark. It's cute and adorable and kind of funny at the time, but then you realize those things are alive, and that's... I feel really sad and bad about what's happening to them right there. That's... Oh, God. Anyway... They go into there, and Barty ends up leading the Nomad off to see if he can perhaps use his magic to do other things. Oh, I said the most important thing is he never killed anyone. The most important thing is the only magic the Nomad apparently has is the ability to bring things to life. As far as we know, that's literally the only thing that he can do. As far as he said, that's the only bit of magic he can possibly do, is bringing things to life. Which, don't get me wrong, that's cool magic, I'm just saying. Wouldn't it be cool if he could shoot some fucking fireballs out of his hands or something? Anyway, point is, Barty ends up leading him off towards the mill that I mentioned before, while other people are conspiring in the background like, ooh, magic, eh? Let's go tell the boys. Anyway, he leads the Nomad off to the mill, where we get introduced to the rest of what is referred to as the Mill Preservation Society. I believe the girl with the slingshot is Dolores, while the other one, the nerdy one with the book, is Eugene, voiced by Barbara Dunkelman, I approve, and Caitlin Glass, respectively, which I think is really cool. I've mentioned this 100 times before. I love seeing... cool voice actor people who aren't necessarily part of RT joining in and doing stuff more. It's what I mentioned about with Elizabeth, and I love it when they just kind of mesh with the group so much they're just like, dude, I'm part of the family as far as anyone's concerned. As far as anyone's concerned, Elizabeth is 100% part of the RT family. Fight me and tell me I'm wrong. I would say the same thing about Vic, even though that he's only ever played Crow. Anyway, point is... maybe Chris, too. Chris Sabat. This is an unnecessary diversion. Also, I can't word properly. Anyway, point is, again, Barbara Dunkelman and Caitlin Glass, who has done 100,000 things, but will always be Haruhi from fucking Orin High School Host Club to me. Anyway, they get introduced there. Eugene, again, is this nerdy character who's a bookworm. You know how they is. It's not surprising. Look at the boy. Just look at him. What would you expect him to be? We ain't here to subvert fucking stereotypes. Anyway, point is... and then we got the more kind of sassy tomboyish Dolores. Anyway, again, potentially fucking that name up. I can't remember. I don't have it open on my screen. Anyway, point is... they all kind of come together and have the discussion of, well, he's magic. He can fix the mill. If he can bring the mill to life, then he might be able to save things. While Barty's explaining that to them, the sheriff, the little conniving, sneaky fella from earlier, and the rest of the town all kind of come here and get together and be like, hey, so I hear you're all about this magic. You need to get the fuck out of here. We don't deal with this dark magic here. Tell him, Adam. Anyway, point is, it was cool to see Adam. I always love him popping into certain stuff because I like his voice a lot. Especially since like the first voice acting thing we got to see him, and he was just kind of a douche. So it's nice to see him not have to be such a douche every once in a while. Anyway, point is, they all get there, and again, they basically say to him, hey, you gotta get out of town. You can't stay here. We don't like this magic. It's bad. And it's here that Barty and him are kind of fighting back and forth, like, well, he can fix things. He can do it. And it's like, hey, can you just bring the mill to life? And the Nomad's like, he describes it almost like he can't bring things that are big to life. But again, it comes down to the fact that he doesn't talk, so you're kind of questioning whether or not he can, or he just chooses not to. And I mean, it shows off that he can. He doesn't bring the mill to life, and he brought the really big rock thing to life in the first episode. And I guess it just comes down to the question of, then does he specifically choose not to because of how it always seems to end up? Because when he does bring the mill to life and everyone's like, okay, what can you do? What are you going to do for us? He does bring the mill to life, and the mill proceeds to go ape shit and destroys half the fucking town. Which obviously ends very poorly for the Nomad, leading him to get fucking booted out by everybody, except for, like, the only person who doesn't immediately ostracize him is fucking Barty. I mean, it's because the man tried, he didn't do it right. And I think that it comes down to, I think that's the main reason, at least from what we can tell, is why why magic itself is so kind of, you know, we can't fucking have that in this world, man, it's bad, is because, you know, you may mean to do good things, but that doesn't always work that way. And in this case, he brings the mill to life, and it proceeds to go ape shit and break shit. And again, that gets him kicked out. And I think that is kind of, at least as far as we know, that is the main reason the Nomad is the Nomad. That's the reason he took off and hasn't been seen forever, is because everyone just assumes the worst of him, because despite him trying to do good, it ends up doing bad. Yeah, so, yeah, that's pretty much it. The episode actually ends really kind of abruptly with that, and from a pure pacing thing, there's two things pacing-wise in this. I think the shot when he first walks in the town both works and both doesn't, because it feels unnecessarily long, but it also kind of feels like, it kind of feels right for it to be so long, because it's showing off this incredibly dead and empty town. So it's a weird pacing thing for me that I'm kind of like, yeah, and I'm also like, no. And the other thing is, it just does feel like a really rushed ending to the episode. I just feel like it could have used a couple extra seconds of breather. But that's just me. I've noticed that happens to me all the time when I'm talking about almost any film and television or movies or whatever. It's not like exclusive to RT stuff. It's actually far more exclusive to everything that isn't RT. They tend to do pacing in a way that I care for really nicely. But this one in particular did just feel just a little rushed. Like everything just was like, and everything broken and everything is gone. Which I don't know. I have no right to talk about pacing. You've watched these episodes. A mile fucking minute coming out of my mouth. I can't even tell what the fuck I'm saying half the time. Anyway, point is, and that's where the episode ends. This, you know, section here. With him getting kicked out. And again, it gives us a good view of why the Nomad is so important to the world and why everyone wants to hunt him down. People like the Dawn want him because he's useful. He's this thing that he's their meal ticket, as he described. As for someone like El Rey, you gotta wonder is, well, he's already the biggest bad boy in the kingdom, one would assume, considering the king. So I suppose it would come down to, do you just want to, just for the sake of having magical power? Does he know the Nomad? What is about this? What do we know? Nothing. That's why we gotta watch some more episodes. Yeah, and on the Nomad's way out, then we cut to a little last section where we encounter a bounty hunter making their way across the desert when they see the mill wheel bolting across the field, the great and mighty plains of the desert, the great and mighty plains of the Serengeti. And it's here that he just, like, no, that's fucking weird. Guess I'm probably going in the right direction, and then proceeds to show off the warrant and then crushing in his hands because he's a bad boy. Also voiced by Ian Sinclair, which is another person who's been in a bunch of stuff that I've never seen. Anyway, and that is where the episode ends. And again, I did really like this episode. Aside from that little pacing thing at the end, I really did enjoy it. I liked seeing more characters. I'd like to see how much more of them get brought up in the future. How much continuation does come on from there. Because again, this is a story-driven thing, especially if after watching the third episode, it is a very, very continuous story, which I'm really glad. I'm really happy that it is like that, and rather than say an episodic thing, which you could do, and they could potentially still kind of do with this one, in that, like, okay, well, he's come to this new town, tries to help, ends up fucking shit up, maybe fixes it, maybe doesn't, just stuff like that. And I think it's very cool to see his little journey along here, and I'm very interested to know more about the other two things we kind of get hinted at here, with being both El Rey and the Iron Border, because those both sound like potentially quite interesting things to see. Anyway, so yeah, no, I dug the episode, and I'm excited to keep doing this, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you guys enjoyed the episode itself, if you enjoyed what I've done here, by all means, tell me down below. Tell me what you're thinking. You guys got any thoughts on the Nomad, on the Dawn, on this El Rey fella? If you've got any ideas, then by all means throw them down in the comments down below. I love talking to people. It's great, as long as they're nice. If you guys enjoyed the video itself, by all means, please show it some love, and I will see you guys in the next episode, where we will talk about episode 3, Trouble on Purpose, I believe was the episode's name. I'm going off memory. I could be fucking that up. Anyway, I will see you guys then when we will talk about that. Also, I really wanted to quickly throw out something. The episodes, oh, you don't have to watch this anymore. But this is just to people who do care about the Ruby recap. I would like to apologize that episode 13 and 14 are still not out yet. Basically, I keep looking like, I'm gonna sit down and record episode 13, and then I remember all the shit that happens in episode 13. I'm like, I need time to talk about that shit. So hopefully it'll be out here soon for you guys. I'm sorry to make you guys wait as long as I have already. I'm literally the worst human being that's ever lived, and I mean Hitler lived, and I'm still worse. I couldn't even get close to getting into art school. Anyway, point is, I thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys next episode. Toodles, doodles, and nomads, everybody. I can't do that. It sounds like blasphemy. I have to have lemons in there. Toodles, doodles, lemons, everybody. That's right. I will end it right there.